Good evening, welcome to Tax Issues. I'm Kerry Watkin. This week we look at SARS e-filing travel advisory and sweeping pay-as-you-earn changes, and to discuss this with me is Ewald Muller, Senior Executive at SAICA. Ewald, welcome to Tax Issues.
Good to be here.
Let's start off with the pay-as-you-earn system and the envisaged benefits thereof.
The pay-as-you-earn system, the idea behind the latest changes we've seen is to make the lodging process for the employee so much simpler by transferring electronically information from the employer and their payroll information, RP5 that they complete from that, directly onto every employee's tax return. So it's there to make it quicker and easier, in theory, for the employee to lodge their tax return.
What were the processes that employers should have followed?
Right, employers as of the, if I remember right, 1st of July, would have had access to software, which was developed by SAICA, by SARS, sorry, and they would have had to get a CD at the SARS offices, or they could download the file. Just a word of warning, that file was approximately 30 megabytes big. So the best was to collect the software, then to load that onto their computers and then manually input all their data. If they had a payroll system, they simply would have been able to link the information from there directly into this electronic system. They would then have had to reconcile, a process that always had to be done in the past. But the problem was that it was not strictly enforced by SARS. Now, with the employer doing it electronically, it has to reconcile before it can be submitted. So that was the process the employer had to go through, and then obviously issue the RP5s to the employees.
Right. Okay.
That was due by the end of August.
Okay. Are there any potential pitfalls you see with this system?
Yes, definitely. I think the biggest potential pitfall we face is that we have employers who do not necessarily have the technical ability to deal with the software. They don't necessarily have the computers that are not computerized in essence. So that was one potential pitfall. What exactly do they do? Now, they could have gone to SARS offices and have been assisted in that regard. But the numbers there were something that did concern us as to how many people were actually able to cope with it. Now, as at the last week of August, 100,000 out of something like 400,000 employers had filed. So 300,000 was still outstanding, 75%. What the last week brought, one would have to see. And that was one of the major pitfalls. The other one was really the size of the software, the ability of the systems to cope, particularly when volumes suddenly go up. That's always an inherent problem in any new software. So that's a generic pitfall, if I can refer to it like that. And then the other one is that people might, and this is the word of warning, I think, that people might take too much comfort out of the fact that this is an electronic process and assume that everything is perfect.
Absolutely.
And I think that is the one thing that people need to be so careful of. Employees still, as they did in the past, should have checked their RP5s. They should similarly do exactly the same now, check their RP5, but then they must check their RP5 to the system if they do e-filing, or if they request a return, they should do the same thing.
Ewald, just to end off quickly, what is the impact on employees?
The impact essentially is that they can now get a pre-populated return, should make their lives simpler. They can, or should, if they can, go for e-filing, and that should be a very quick process. So incumbent again, just to check the numbers.
Thank you, Ewald. If you need more information about this interview, you can log on to taxtalk.co.za, or you can reach Tax Talk on 0861 829 825. Until next week, goodbye.